Welcome into Green Live, everybody. We are back. Happy Tuesday. We are breaking down the waiver wire for week 7, talking a lot of the changes that happened today in the NFL. Even more stuff coming out as early as an hour ago. Bobby, did you know that Tom Brady is now a partial owner of the now Vegas Raiders?
I did see that. I saw that in the news, and they're expecting him, even though he's a minority owner, to play a pretty significant role in that organization.
That shocks me. I can't believe Brady's joining the Raiders. Um, even as like an owner, I just feel like good luck trying to win with that team, Brady. Maybe, maybe if there's a person to turn it around, it's him. But there's been some dire times lately down there in Vegas. But let's keep talking about Vegas. Let's talk about one of the big name wide receivers getting shipped out to the New York Jets. That's Devontae Adams rejoining Aaron Rodgers in New York. Bobby, two parts of this that we're going to talk about that I'd like to hear your opinion. I think that this is huge for Devontae Adams. I know he would probably have had more targets and opportunities in Vegas, but from O'Connell. I feel like this is a clear upgrade in fantasy for Devontae Adams with a clear, I feel, decline for Garrett Wilson. It looked like I was over on Garrett Wilson's receiving yards and receptions, and both of them hit. So I was pretty happy. Garrett Wilson's had 2 great weeks in a row. Now he's going to have to compete with Devontae Adams. I think this for sure drops Garrett Wilson down. Are you as bullish that like I don't want to say the sky's falling, but he just dropped an entire tier for me? Are you in the same area, or am I overreacting?
So there's two ways this could go, but just to provide a quick answer before I go into the details, I've been saying Garrett Wilson's a sell high for about 2 weeks now, and I
Yeah.
correctly predicted that he would have 2 pop-off games. And in the last fantasy stock market article I released last week, I even included in the description of why Garrett Wilson is a sell high. Once I finally committed to that, was because Devontae Adams, once the trade rumors started circulating and gaining traction, one of the primary destinations he wanted to go to was the New York Jets because of his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, the relationship he already has with who else is on that team that he knows? Is it Hackett? I don't know if it's Hackett, but there's some.
Hackett's OC, but he's got Lazard there too.
Yeah, Lazard. Like they're playing with a lot of similar people that they had on
Mm.
that team back in Green Bay together, things of that nature. So yeah, how do I think this plays out? It could go one of two ways. Me personally, I tend to agree with you. I think it's going to lessen Wilson's value, but here's how I see it playing out and why I think it's going to be a negative. One way it plays out is the positive, and because Adams is going to attract more attention. Maybe if he's doubled or he gets like the best coverage, maybe that opens up Wilson for less coverage or the lesser corner or whatever. So maybe that allows, them both to have weeks where, maybe Adams gets his and he eats, maybe Wilson gets his and he eats. It just depends on who's covering them, that type of thing. Or it goes into what some people think, which I don't know how much truth there is to this. I don't know how scientific it is. It's kind of going off subjective values, but Aaron Rodgers loves hyper targeting veterans. He has reliable guys he turns to in crucial situations like Alan Lazard. There's no reason why Alan Lazard in the year of our Lord 2024 should be doing the things he's doing, but he is, and is a big part of that because of Aaron Rodgers. I would definitely say if there's a case to be made, Aaron Rodgers is what's keeping him in the Lazard business and Lazard in the fantasy football business. So it just kind of depends, man. I personally, yeah, I think it's going to be negative for the most part because where you probably took Garrett Wilson, especially in redraft, as a redraft player, you're going to be frustrated because he's still going in a lot of drafts, second, third round. You're putting significant capital into him over other receivers who are probably available around that area. So you're going to be disappointed. And if you've been holding on to him for a long time in Dynasty, you've been hoping since his rookie year he was going to be that consistent number one option. And I definitely don't think this is going to help him be that number one option that you've been wanting him to be in Dynasty. I think he's great after these past two games, but now going forward, there's a new cog in the machine that you have to account for. And I kind of struggle to see a world where Alan Lazard, and it also depends. Do you think they legitimately look better after firing Robert Salah and taking Hackett out of the equation? Do you legitimately think they look better after the Bills game? It's hard for me to make that determination because I'm not able to watch the Bills game. I have something to say to ESPN, but I'm not going to say it because we could get demonetized. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how they looked. I'm just relying on other people and the little blips and blurbs they've probably seen because they might not have even watched the full game, but people love to commentate and extrapolate just off box scores and regurgitate what everybody else is saying. So I don't have an answer to that, but I don't know. That team overall, apparently from what I'm seeing online and talking heads, seems to be heading in a better direction. They could have won that game. It looks like it came down to Greg Zerlin missing an easy kick, and that's why they
Couple.
lost, or at least didn't go into overtime to give themselves a chance to win the game. So, overall, though, to answer the question, I'm of the opinion this is probably going to negatively impact Wilson for the most part. Because, like I said, just with what you've invested into him from redraft and how long you've been holding on to him to Dynasty and the expectations you have for him, I definitely think this lessens his chances. Another interesting tidbit is now how do you think this affects the rest of the New York Jets offense? What do you
Right.
personally think?
You know, watching that game, I did think the offense did look a little bit better. I do think that also the defense looked a little worse, which is to be expected with Salah being fired.
Right.
Brees looked better. I think maybe that offensive line, as the season goes on, is going to gel more and more. I think it's a good thing that they got Adams. Now that they got Adams and Garrett Wilson can be the two, or Adams can be the two, whichever kind of way you lean there. I kind of still feel like Garrett Wilson at this stage of his career is better than Devontae Adams. I think that they have a pretty good chance now going forward, especially with that defense. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just going to be kind of a weird one. I worry about what happens if they keep losing. Like if they lose 2, 3, 4 more games, they're pretty much out of the playoff conversation already with still half the season to go. So it's like they have to turn it on now. And if the season's lost, then what? Like what are they going to do? Rodgers and Devontae are going to go out there and act like the '07 Patriots when you're fighting for that 7th seed and you need help. I can see this going south.
Do you think that adding Adams into the equation results in more opportunities? Like, let's say, for example, maybe he loses passing game opportunities, which he really likes. Like, he has a real big role in that regard, and that's where he gets a lot of points. Do you think he negates that and makes up for it with less stacked boxes and things of that nature, where maybe it opens up more actual pure rushing opportunities and maybe touchdowns there for Brees Hall?
I do. I think that, like I said, more time for that offensive line to gel will be good because they were without, I believe, Morgan Moses last week. Now they get Morgan Moses back. There's so many penalties in that game too. I believe over 200 yards of penalties, which is just insane.
Significant.
I do think that results in a lot less stacked boxes, and maybe it's probably going to eat into Brees Hall's receiving totals. But at the same time, like I feel like he's going to make up for that in rushing. But I also feel like it is going to drop the amount that they're rushing. I feel like they're going to start leaning a couple percentage higher in the passing. But Brees Hall, as good as he is, I still think that he's like an RB1 going forward. I know he had a couple bad games, but I personally can't stop him, give up on him.
Yeah, and I mean, I just traded for him, so I clearly believe in him. But
Yeah.
it just depends. My main thing is it's just you make some valid points I hadn't been thinking about, like how dedicated are they going to be if they're easily out of playoff contention? How much motivation is going to be left? Are they just going to implode and kind of start a fire sale because Are we kind of already seeing evidence of that because they've come out and said now Mike Williams is available and you just got Mike Williams just this year, barely used him, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to be eating a little bit of money on that. You're already eating money as part of the trade deal with the Raiders. You're assuming the rest of the money that's owed to Devontae Adams. So they're going to be eating a lot of money. And it's unfortunate because you're also really putting a lot, like, especially once again for redraft, you're going to be disappointed with where you probably took Garrett Wilson and everything, how heavily invested they are in like twilight of their career receiver and definitely twilight of their career quarterback. Dynasty, now I'm starting, as you say that, and like I said, the points you make, dynasty, but it still puts you in a position that you've already been in, and you've got to be getting tired after 3 years of holding the bag on the dude. Like, all right, now they're really committed, and after this year, it could be a blow up fire sale. But it's like, then what? Who do they then choose as quarterback after Aaron Rodgers? Because Aaron Rodgers is quickly, he can't keep it up, man. He every week it's like major injury scare. Like I said, he's coming off an Achilles. He's 41. He's been in the league for so long. He's like the last quarterback from like that generation of quarterbacks even
Right.
still playing, let alone playing at a decent enough level. And that's not good for real life football. It's just how much longer are you going to wait? I'm not dunking on, Wilson owners by any means, but it's just like you got some things to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, the Jets have pieces now. The Jets have pieces, and I know
Yeah.
they blamed it on Saleh and stuff, and the Jets kicker missed 2 kicks, but the Jets weren't able to get in the end zone. So they
Right.
had to kick these field goals, and then the game ended because Rodgers threw an interception because it is Mike Williams slipped, but he underthrew Mike Williams. So Mike Williams was cutting back, coming back to the ball, and it got picked off. So Rodgers can explain it all he wants. I have trouble trusting Rodgers at this stage of his career.
Right. It just sucks to see such a young, talented team, like you said, with all the pieces. You have Sauce, you have Brees, you have Garrett Wilson, you have, some other stars on the defensive aspect. You have, other offensive players, even Mike Williams, for all the hate he gets. It wasn't that long ago. He was good for fantasy and everything. And it just sucks to see all those good pieces, especially the young ones like Brees, like Garrett, like Sauce, just kind of, it feels wasted on a team.
Agreed. Agreed. I did want to ask you about Mike Williams. So they're talking about trading him now because they got Devontae. I think it's probably a good idea. I would imagine he probably gets bumped down to wide receiver 4. I think he's probably beneath Lazard in the pecking order there. Is there a team that if he gets traded to, you have any interest in going after him in fantasy? I feel like the only team, like even if we went to the Chiefs, I feel like I still don't really want him. I feel like the only team that would make me kind of wonder and want to take a chance would be just returning home to Los Angeles and Herbert, who needs receivers right now. He's so injury prone too. I don't know what I give up for him. Um, but like maybe in some shallower leagues, he's on waivers. What do you think? Does he have much value going forward? And if he doesn't go to the Chargers, does he have value on like the Chiefs or any of the other teams?
I think you're looking at a situation where you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. I don't know why the Chargers gave him up in the first place. I don't know whether they're trying to do like a soft rebuild by taking Joe Alt as high as they did, and then McConkey, and then QJ last year and all that. Maybe they're going for like a soft rebuild. They got Dobbins on a really cheap contract that's working out well so far. I'm sure they got Vidal for pennies. That seems to be working out so far. We'll get to him later, I'm sure. Uh, Gus Edwards is kind of being a bust, and that's fine. We didn't really expect much from Gus. I'm sure he's probably on a cheap contract, so you're not hurting too bad there. That's obviously, yeah, that's my number one destination. I don't know why they gave up so many of their pass catchers. I forget what they got real life value from those trades and everything. I'd be curious to go back and look to see if it was worth it because, like I said, I just don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing a soft rebuild or what. Chargers would definitely be way up there. They're desperately needing pass catchers, desperately needing it. Some other teams I can think of, hell no to like the 49ers, hell no to like the Seahawks. The Raiders don't need him because even though like they're missing Devontae now, like they're another team that's going to blow it up. Let me know when you got what the Chargers got pulled up if that's what you're looking up or
Yeah, it
whatever.
is. It is.
Okay. Uh, the Raiders don't need them because it looks like they're full blown committed to the rebuild at this point. Just selling like they got like a conditional fourth out of Devontae, so they kind of ate that unless he just balls out, which, like you were saying, depends because the qualifications for that fourth to turn into a second, from what I was reading, are very unachievable for the Jets. Like just logically, like one of the requirements is like if he's going to be all pro or on the Super Bowl. I don't think those are happening this year. So there's two of the ways that fourth can turn into a second instantly eliminated. So they're really just eating that. Thankfully, they got out on the money side of things. They were smart enough to do that. But they're going to be looking at taking a quarterback next year. Whoever the hot quarterbacks available are, they're going to be wanting to get in on a quarterback. They found their tight end with Bowers. They found their tight end with Meyer. They're going to need some more receivers. I don't know how much longer Jacoby's under contract, things like that. Feel free to interject, and I can keep going if you want.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he wasn't traded. They just cut him for cap reasons.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you
Interesting.
could have gotten something out of that, even if it was just a low, like a crappier pick. I mean, Cap's tricky because you would think that Cap means something in real life football and all that, but no further than the New Orleans Saints for going ridiculously over cap every single year and somehow doing black magic to finagle and mix it around and go back under or at least kick the can down the road every year. We've been saying for like 5 years now, if not longer. Oh,
Right.
the Saints are going to be in trouble. The Saints are going to be in trouble. They're so over cap. They're so over cap. And every year, somehow, some way, they do black arts and finagle it. But
I don't get it.
I mean, on the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs would have the same problem. Depends on what you're getting them for. If you're going to eat the money on his contract, why would you when what you're doing right now isn't exactly the most entertaining thing in the world, but it's working and you're 5-0 right now and you're just
Right.
cruising. Why would you do it? You already got injured guys. And if he gets
Right.
injured again, then you just have 3 injured guys instead of 4. Because I'm thinking Pacheco, Rice, and Hollywood. So now you'd have 4 injured dudes.
Right.
So there's no reason for them to go after him. Devontae would have been their best shot. I'm surprised they weren't as aggressive with him, but I see now since the Raiders were so intent on, hey, this 78 million, we ain't paying it. I could see why the Chiefs were out on that. Uh, some people would probably like to see Baltimore. I have no interest in seeing them in Baltimore because their
No.
passing game is so heavily reliant on, okay, what type of defense are they playing? Because
Right.
if they're playing a defense that's strong against the pass but weak against the rush, it's Derrick Henry and Lamar time. If
Right.
it's the opposite, then yeah, they'll be able to, spread the ball out a little bit more. But good luck figuring out who's going to be catching passes on a week to week basis there, because even just between likely Andrews and apparently now Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, yes, he's throwing a lot, he's completing a lot and all that, but there's not enough volume to add somebody else into the mix because he's doing his best Patrick Mahomes impression and just spreading the ball out with what he has. So there's no reason for them to go after a receiver. Uh, no interest in seeing him on the Panthers. The Panthers have way bigger fish to fry. I think between Leggett, Deontay Johnson, and honestly, you could just run the offense with Leggett, Deontay Johnson, and that tight end they got, Jatavian Sanders, I think is his name,
Yeah.
and Sheba catching passes. They got bigger fish to fry. They need to keep beefing up the O line, work on their defense, and bring in an actual quarterback. If they're, Andy Dalton's not the answer, but I don't know if Bryce Young is. Jacksonville's fine. They got BTJ, they got Christian, they got Ingram back. So Jacksonville's a no. Texans are a hell no.
Hashtag
Vikings
none
are,
of them.
yeah, like there's really nowhere other than the Chargers he fits. Like I struggle to think of teams. Some would argue Tennessee, but you got to have a quarterback. Now Tennessee needs to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback because I
Right.
loved Will Levis, but now even I'm off the Will Levis train. Those are really
Bad.
the only teams that stick out to me that need receivers. Now you could say since Cooper's gone from the Browns, but once again, you still have the quarterback problem. I don't think
Right.
Cooper was the problem. The quarterback's the problem. So until a lot of these until a lot of these teams address their quarterback problem or their O line problem or whatever. There's just way too many teams with quarterback problems in the NFL right now that have to address that. Now, the Broncos, as I say it, and this is the last saying, the Broncos would be very interesting. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's like he's doing well enough with what he's got between Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and Dewan Vili or whatever the hell his name is. So
Right.
that'd be an interesting one. So
Yeah. Yeah. I saw something I thought you would like earlier. It was saying that like everybody saying like you need a bench Deshaun.
yeah,
Everybody say that this is his punishment for his evil doings. This is a shame tour where he just has to start all season long and everybody sees how bad he is.
it's just crazy because I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Once again, I'm the biggest proponent of I'm not in the Boy Scout drafting league. I don't care about
Right.
morals in fantasy football. But it is just bizarre though, looking at from a neutral standpoint of how bad the dude was just off out of nowhere. Maybe
Yeah.
that AC joint really ruined him from last year. I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws. I don't know why the dude's been so bad. Like I thought that offensive line was so good, and I know they've been kind of banged up since the beginning of the season, but
Mm,
it's just hard to now kind of find excuses for that team.
agreed. Agreed. So that team sends Amari Cooper out to the Bills. And now our boy Jerry Judy gets a little extra run time out there in Cleveland. Thoughts on these two players? I feel like it seems too easy to think that Amari's just going to come in and be the number one wide receiver and just take over. I feel like it's still going to be more spread out than people would like. I feel like it's still going to be Keon Coleman 3-4 times a game, a lot of Shakir, Curtis Samuel here and there too, and then playing with their two tight ends. So I wouldn't put Cooper. I don't know, but maybe a wide receiver 2 going forward. I think people might want to bump him up into like top 10 wide receiver 1 territory. I just don't see him getting there personally. Um, and then it's hard to bump Judy up. Like even if he does get more work, Deshaun Watson's just played so bad, dude. I mean, Judy's. It's hard. Like you can't really even say he's a flex play. He's like a desperation bye week filler, in my opinion. Even with Cooper gone, what am I off base on either of those?
So Judy, yeah, I think you make a good point. If you want to see how volume isn't always king in fantasy football, look no further than Calvin Ridley with 8 targets
Right.
last week. And look how terrible those 8 targets were, like laughably bad. At one point, I don't even think Calvin Ridley was in the frame of the direction of the ball.
I was
Like
gonna
that's how
ask if
bad
you saw that.
it was. Like, God, that's fucking terrible. I really think you're looking at that exact same type of situation with Judy. And it's like Judy might get 11 targets, but how many of those targets are even going to be catchable or even thrown anywhere near a reasonable catch radius for him to be able to make a play off of?
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. That team just has to address quarterback. And
Mhm.
I, for a long time, thought anybody saying that was the worst trade in football and all that. I still think people only said that simply because of the allegations. They did not base that off any football metric or any eye test or anything else. And that's fine. But just be honest with yourself. You did not think about that other than the allegations. If the allegations never happened and he was just your regular damn quarterback, you would never feel that type of way. You would always think there's a little bit of hope. It's just easy to dogpile on the guy because he's easy to hate. But anyway, yeah, Judy, it doesn't change much for him until they get a new quarterback or until they start Jameis Winston or whatever.
Please.
Cooper, it kind of depends on how you look at the Cooper situation. Like, if you're somebody out there listening who thinks that the Bills have only been spreading around the ball because they don't have a number one guy, all signs seem to indicate Cooper is just, slagging and, lagging behind this year because of poor quarterback play so far this season. So if you think that that's the reason why they were spreading around the ball, then yeah, there's reason to believe that's going to stop now that they have a bona fide number one in on the team, because I've been hearing how Khalil Shakir is supposed to be a thing for 3 years now, and I definitely don't think this helps that case. I think Keon Coleman's still the future of that team. I think he still has a place, but he's just a rookie, and he's just not making the immediate rookie impact that people thought he would compared to like a Brian Thomas or a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison, and that's okay. But eventually he'll find his stride and his rhythm too. I don't think Curtis Samuel's going to be a thing. So somebody's going to have targets, taken away. Like, I really do think Cooper's going to have really good value. And redraft, here's your kind of shot of adrenaline. Here's your shot of hope to help you out in redraft. Dynasty, if you don't see it that way and you kind of think they're going to keep taking the dollar store Chiefs approach, which a lot of teams do seem to like nowadays. A lot of teams seem to like trying to do that imitation where it's like, yeah, we're not really going to pay for a big receiver. Case in point, the Chargers, we're just going to kind of pass the ball around to anybody that can catch it and keep the chains moving that way. If you think they're going to keep doing that, then now you have, especially in Dynasty, dude's not getting any younger. He's another one of those guys who's been around since 2014. Sell now, because I'm seeing a lot of people on socials and everything who have a lot of optimism about this, and it's really got him skyrocketing again. So in Dynasty, I personally, depends on what I'm being offered, I'd be looking to cash out. But if I couldn't, or I just couldn't make a deal that I felt comfortable with or whatever, I also have no problem holding them at least for this year. But you know, he's not a long-term solution, but he presents an interesting buy opportunity or sell opportunity depending on how confident you are. And in redraft, you definitely have hope.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I was looking to see some stats for this next segment that we're going to talk about, and that is us talking about your article, Bobby. You come out with a new article every Tuesday morning breaking down the players that are available in waiver wires in over 50% of leagues. I love this one guy. Do you mind if I go out of order today?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. You know who I want to start with? That is
Yeah.
Mr. Kamani Vidal, a guy I've been pounding the drum for since, God, what? Before August.
It's been at least since June,
Yeah. Yeah.
July.
A long time, dude. A long time. Um, he finally got to play this week with Gus Edwards going on IR. And he played the Denver Broncos, which pretty decent defense. I'm like, how have teams stacked up against the Broncos? Najee back in week 2 got 7.9. Brees Hall got 3 against the Jets. And then we get to see Kamani come in his first game and get 12. Outscore 2 great guys. Let's see, how did Rachaad White do against them? Rachaad White got 6 points. So he outscored Rachaad White, Brees Hall, and Najee Harris. And this is his first NFL game. 4 carries for 11 yards. Not great. But once again, like, that's a really good defense that he was against. 2 catches, caught both of them, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. I like Vidal a lot, man. They invested so much in this offensive line over the years. And the lack of... They might throw more if they trade for Williams, but like they have shown they want to run the ball, and I feel like J.K. Dobbins, he's been great, and he's been healthy. But if he suffers an injury, I just feel like this is Vidal's backfield, and I don't know if Dobbins gets it back. If Vidal gets to actually take over, is that kind of what you're thinking too? Is it almost time for our boy to break out?
I don't necessarily think like I decided to go with Vidal because since you put me on to Vidal, I've become a believer also in the other league that we're in. I've had him pretty much since the draft. He was like my last pick or something close to that. I don't even remember. But anyway, I've held on to him. I only dropped him once, immediately picked him back up just to make room, just to shift my roster around. But
Right.
what I'm looking at with even if Dobbins stays 100% healthy for the rest of the season, which is always a big if, but even if he does, which is our worst case scenario, my optimism is that since they are so in desperate need of pass catchers, that the pure rushing is 100% Dobbins' realm, and they just get creative if they're smart, and they just use Vidal as a pass catcher where he excelled in this last game and caught a touchdown. And he mixes in with Johnston, he mixes in with McConkey, and he's just like doing like, some H-hand, Brees Hall type stuff where he's catching passes and he's used in a creative and dynamic way to where even worst case scenario, Dobbins doesn't even miss any time at all, even a snap. He has his own standalone role as like that pass catcher that they're in such desperate need of, which especially in a PPR or half PPR league itself is going to get you a safe, reliable floor and gets you a nice ceiling, especially if he does catch a touchdown like he just did in this past game. And then, yeah, if Dobbins goes down entirely, Edwards is still on IR for at least another 3 games, if not longer, then yeah, he's definitely skyrocketing from there. So
I can't wait, man. I'm so happy that we have him. Just let him sit there. It got hard. It did start to get
yeah,
hard those last couple of weeks not dropping him, but this is exactly why you don't do it. It's
right,
because if that situation pops up, like Achan last year popped up, and all of a sudden you have to play him every week.
right.
I could see that happen with Vidal here. The first guy you have listed here is Ray Davis, who looked outstanding. He looked outstanding in that Jets game. Um, I worry with Ray Davis how much opportunity he's going to get with James Cook, but I feel like with Cook out, he made a case to maybe carve out a bigger role than he previously had. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it's getting kind of hard this time of year. We're roughly halfway to playoffs in most leagues. We're 7 weeks away from playoffs to kind of figure out, especially in these deeper leagues. Like our dynasty right now, it's 8 teams, so there's still a few guys out there, but even that's getting dried up. But our 12 team especially is just
Yeah.
absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's getting harder each week now as we get closer and closer to playoffs to write these because, like I said, the pool of talent's quickly drying. So I included Ray Davis just because, like I mentioned in the intro to the article, it's like we're going to be running back heavy because a lot of the guys this week are guys that I already told you about like 2 weeks ago when you should have picked them up and you should have held on to them. Like I could have wrote about Cole Kmet again, but I did that like 2-3 weeks ago when you should have kept them and you should have held on to them. And you know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
probably not available in most leagues now.
No.
Same with like Tank Bigsby, like guys that I wrote about like week 1, 2, 3. It's like I'm not going to write about again because I try to give you advance notice before you're fighting with everybody else in your league over these people, like
Yeah.
that's why I snuck Xavier Hutchinson in there. And like this week, Cade Otton's that guy, and we'll get to him. But yeah, so with Ray Davis, the biggest X factor is definitely so what is the severity of James Cook injury? Right now, we know very little to my knowledge. It's a toe injury. So what does that mean? Is it turf toe? Not to play Jesse Morse here, but if it's turf toe, 1 to 2 weeks, potentially he could be out. So 1 to 2 weeks, you could play Davis. Could also be he only misses this one game and he's fine. Like we just don't know what's going on and the extent of the injury other than he missed this game. So, yeah, Ray Davis was the pickup. There was a lot of confusion before kickoff, whether it was him or Ty Johnson. If you picked Ty Johnson, I'm sorry, but it was always going to be Ray Davis. Like
Right.
you could see from prior games where Cook was even active, Davis was clearly operating in that number 2 role. So, yeah, and I even say in the article, if you're expecting this guy to just come in, and I'm already seeing it, guys, don't overreact. Don't overreact. He's not going to now take over James Cook's role entirely as long as Cook is healthy. He's not going to severely cut into his snaps. If James Cook is active and available, it's James Cook all the way. 90% of snaps, whatever. It's all James Cook. But right now, until we understand how long he's out and all that fun jazz, he's going to be great. He's going to be fine. He's going to be a good bye week filler. He's going to be a good injury filler. There's all these injuries and all that crap. Just temper your expectations and know what you're getting into. If you think you're going to get a league winner, you're going to be disappointed. But if you think you're going to get a serviceable guy with a, high ceiling, stable floor and a great offense that's going to allow him opportunities and everything, then yeah, you're going to be fine. But just don't go crazy.
I love it, man. I love it. Let's talk about your last guy, Cade Otton, a guy I've always liked since he came into the league. What are you seeing right now in Cade Otton that makes you think that, in the year that tight end's been really rough, that you think he's going to be a startable guy?
Yeah, I'm just looking with how bad tight end's been this year and how frustrated people are with it. I'm just trying to find guys that I feel like I'm at least a week early on. And with Kate Otten, I feel like he's a week early, so it's a perfect time now to sneak him into your league off your waiver wire over your league mates because they're not really paying attention. Because right now in the last 3 games, he's only going between 9 to 11 points per game. Nothing crazy, nothing, ridiculous, but a respectable floor, a respectable floor at a very weak position with a lot of volatility. You could do a lot worse than a guy who in his last 3 games has averaged between 9 to 11 points. At least he's not goose egging you recently. Uh,
Yeah.
believe in this last one, he caught his first touchdown. And, Baker's been playing out of his mind. That
Oh
offense looks to be
God.
pretty high powered. They're putting up a lot of points. I think if you get them now, once again, if you think you have a league winner, you're going to be disappointed. But if you think you're getting a guy to fill in for your bye weeks or your injuries who's going to provide you with at least, all right, I can start this guy and get me at least 9 to 11 points, which is what he's been putting up pretty consistently the past 3 weeks, you'll be fine. And now, if the offense continues like it is, which I think it will, since Baker's playing well, the offense is scoring a lot of points. They're able to get into the red zone and succeed and all that fun jazz. I think you're going to get a guy who's now going to start to look at some more touchdown upside. So he's got like a floor of 9 to 11. And if he catches a touchdown, you might be looking at 16 or 18 points. So that's why I'm looking at Otten. Young guy, only been in the league 2 years. Everybody always kind of thinks about him. He's kind of always on their mind, but nobody really pulls the trigger. I think he'll be a great tight end if you're still out there and you're missing out on all the other tight ends that are out there. Go ahead and try Cade Otton. I think the offense is good. I think he's good, and I think maybe he'll have like that year 3 breakout. Year 3 is talked about a lot for receivers. It needs to kind of be talked about for tight ends too. If I'm not mistaken, Trey McBride had like a year 3 breakout last year. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is the people that Bobby has. If you want to see honorable mentions, you guys need to go check out the article on the website, bettergreen.com. That's better, BETTOR green.com. We're going to move on to the next section, which is where me and Bobby break down the top 10 most added people on Sleeper. Guys, we have a name for these people. This is slams or these are scams. Are these guys that you're going to add and they just slam dunk the season? They slam dunk a week for you? Or are they just going to sit and rot away on your bench or just never do anything for it? Hopefully you don't play them and they put up a stinker. Let's see. Let's go number 1 here, Bobby. Also, I just want to say we do not cover kickers and defenses here because it's not you should be streaming those anyways. We don't cover that. You don't need that. If you guys have kicker defense questions, you have to put that in the comment section, and then we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we do not touch that.
I love kickers and defenses, please.
I'm begging you. All right, number 1 is 2.1 million ads on Sleeper, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Sean Tucker. I believe this is Rachaad White was out last week and, might be injured this week too. Bucky Irving is still going to be starting over Sean Tucker. Plays Baltimore this week. Do you really want to play Sean Tucker against Baltimore? I mean, probably not. And then Atlanta, and then Kansas City, and then San Fran, and then the bye week. So are you going to play him against any of those defenses? And then, it gets really easy down the stretch. But after the bye week, are you expecting Rachaad White to be out 5+ weeks? They didn't put him on IR, so probably not. Number 1 guy on Sleeper, I'm going to say scam for this week. What do you think, Bobby?
To be number 1, yeah, scam, because all the points you mentioned, plus if I don't have Bucky or Rachaad, thankfully in the other league win, I have both, thank God. It's gonna get ugly. I know that the coach has come out and said he's earned more opportunities and he's going to be given more opportunities and blah 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 blah. But man, if all 3 of them are healthy at the same time, it's going to get ugly, and I don't want any part of it. But in the meantime, I just that's a huge investment to make into a guy that, like you said, is playing some really tough defenses in the next few weeks. And then, like you said, by the time the schedule does open up after the bye, I mean, if Rashad is put on IR sometime between now and then, obviously, yeah, your gamble's going to pay off. But until we get clarity, it's like the James Cook situation. If you're expecting a league winner, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting a great fill in while the guy is injured until he gets back, then you're going to be perfectly fine. So, just for him to be number one, I feel like that's a bit of a scam.
Glad we agree there. Number 2 with 884.1 thousand ads. Dearness Johnson, a running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, ETN was hurt last week. Dude barely even played. So Johnson played 56% of the snaps, had 6 carries for 28 yards, 2 receptions for 16 yards. He had 5.4 fantasy points. Okay. Okay. All right. I get they're playing New England this week. They're staying out in London. New England stinks. But if you had to pick something positive about New England, be that defense, wouldn't it? It'd be the defense-minded head coach. Dearness Johnson last week got plenty of running time, and he got 5 points against the Bears. That's a pass for me again, dude. That's another scam. 2 scams right off the bat. Dearness Johnson, too. Tank Bigsby, young guy, coming in, still on his rookie contract. Dearness Johnson, Bobby, 28 years old, 5'10", 208 pounds. I don't want any part of this, dude. I don't care. I just don't see how he's going to be fantasy viable. Even if ETN is out for a little bit. New England, Green Bay, and then you get 3 Reds. Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, bye week. He only has one more. He's got New England this week, and then he's got Green Bay and Vegas are his only 2 green matchups left in the fantasy season. Everything else is red or orange, and then he's still got a bye week coming up. I don't want any part of him.
Yeah, another one I'm unfortunately personally qualified to talk about because I'm an ETN Bigsby owner. So, so ETN's out week to week. I'm kind of relieved at this point, honestly, having Bigsby also, that it just makes that fucking decision a lot easier for me to make now. Still, even that being said, I'm not so sure I'm even going to play Bigsby this week. It is a great matchup. But man, I don't want to be much more invested in the Jags offense than I am between him, ETN, and BTJ. So I don't know. It depends on obviously if I get injuries between now and that game, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm not confident in starting Bigsby, the clear number 2 guy now the number 1 guy with ETN hurt and week to week with the hamstring, that should tell you something about how I feel about Dearness Johnson, because unless I get, like I said, knock on wood, injuries or something crazy happens between now and then, I'm not even too confident playing Bigsby until I see how that shakes out, because everybody thought he was going to pop off last week too, and he put up like 2 points himself. So, yeah, that's too much of an investment into, like you said, a 28-year-old running back. And all these people are killing me. It's Tane Bigsby's taking ETN's job. Oh my God, the sky is falling. And now, like, what? Now suddenly Dearness Johnson comes along and you think he's taking Tank Bigsby's job, the guy who is supposedly good enough to take ETN's job? Like, you're so fickle. You're so fickle.
Hit him with a scam, Bobby. Hit him with it.
So scam for me.
I love it. Number 3, 368.8 thousand ads. Wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints, Bub Means. Okay. Derek Carr is going to be out for a while. Spencer Rattler. All right. Bub Means last week, 5 catches on 8 targets, 45 yards, and a touchdown. It's just not doing it for me, man. Now he gets to face Denver on a short week. Are you kidding me? Denver on a short week? No, thank you. And then he gets to face the Chargers in LA. I mean, okay, you get Carolina, Atlanta, Cleveland next. It's just, I don't think Bub Means is going to get the volume, and I'm ever going to start him. Who are you starting Bub Means over is what I would like to know. How banged up is your team that you're starting Bub Means? He's just going to rot away on your bench, save yourself the spot. What do you think? Scam.
Let's see. What's going on with Patrick Surtain II right now? Because they're saying that he's hurt and he might be out for this game, is what I'm seeing.
Even if he is, I still don't like it.
I would like it just for instead of scam, one night stand because uh, Olave is probably going to be out with it being a short week from concussion. So it's going to be him and Shaheed. So if you really, really just need a guy for 1 week, I don't know what receivers are on by this week because I know Chicago is. So, like, if you got a Chicago receiver or
There's only two
whatever,
teams on bye this week.
who else is it besides Chicago? Do you know?
I can look that up too. Surtain has a concussion.
Okay, so Sertan will be out, and he's a big part of what I think makes that defense good, especially when it comes to pass defense.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Bears pass catchers and whatever other teams on by, I mean, if you really need Bub Means, this is the
Cowboys.
week. Yeah, the Cowboys, if like you're missing CD Lamb or Jake Ferguson or something, uh, then yeah, for one night you get to play Bub Means. But after that, as soon as Olave comes back from his own concussion, you're screwed. So if you just really need a guy for
Yeah.
one game, this is your chance because you have no better example of a one game only player. But there's no future for this man right now, unfortunately. So I'll say I'll say one night scam. One
No,
night
one
scam.
night slam.
One night slam. There you go. One night slam. He's a one night slam. After that, please don't think you have something.
No, no. Number 4, surprising, 309.3 thousand ads. Tied in for Jacksonville Jaguars, Evan Ingram. This tells me 309.3 thousand dropped Evan Ingram. I mean, with the injuries, maybe people
Right.
didn't have the IR spots. It just surprised me Evan Ingram was that available. It's a slam for me. He's a clear big time target for Trevor Lawrence, even as bad as the offense has been. Sometimes those tight ends can get that middle of the field, get some easy yards. Slam. Evan Ingram's a slam.
Shame on you for dropping him. Whoever dropped him, shame. Shame. That's a slam. Just shame. I have nothing else to say. I'm disgusted.
Wait till you see some of these. Dude. This is a bad week. Number 5, 229.7 thousand ads. Wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, Romeo Doubs. Oh, man. Jordan Love's balling out. Jordan Love's been great this year, but you're going to be battling. Is he going to get enough volume? And Romeo Doubs seems very unhappy in Green Bay. So I'm not 100% sure he's going to be there by week 9. He might not make it to the trade deadline. We'll see. Romeo Doubs against Houston this week, too. I just don't know if he's going to get the volume, man. Maybe he does. What do you think? I don't know what to put him as. Slam or scam? I'll say slam just because he's shown moments where if he does get the volume, he's pretty good.
He's a slam because he shouldn't be on waivers. He's a good depth piece. He's a good filler. He's a good bye week guy, injuries guy. He shouldn't be on waivers. But yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said. I agree with it completely. The biggest obstacle, like you said, is because Jordan Love has been so good and has been spreading the ball around so much. If you're relying on him too much, you're going to be disappointed. But perfectly great filler and should not be on a waiver. So slam.
Bro, number 6 with 142.3 thousand ads. Tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, Mark Andrews.
Once again, shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. I get it's been rough, but
where did you draft him? Where did you draft him? And what players you have on your team that you can drop Mark Andrews?
Right. Because in tight end premium leagues, guy was easily going second, third round, if not first. You know,
right.
Like, especially second or third. Maybe first is a little high based off what happened last year, but second and third round for a lot of people in heavy tight end premium leagues was not out of the question. So, shame on you. That's a slam. I wish he would have been dropped in our leagues. That's all I can say.
It was hard as a Mark Andrews owner. It was hard to bear through those weeks, but who are you picking up on waivers that's going to be better than Mark Andrews? Who's going to give you a better chance?
Biggest question, yeah. That's the biggest question. I like when you ask that question because it's legitimate. People don't ask themselves that enough because they drop out of anger and frustration so much. It's like, okay, who did you pick up?
Right.
Who did you pick up? It really is that simple because I could answer so much just by getting a simple response.
I love that question. And we're going to just continue with this tight end trend, man. This one's not as surprising. So this is the seventh most added player, 141.4 thousand ads, tight end for the Washington Commanders, Zach Ertz, facing Carolina this week. I mean, I get it, right? The Commanders are a high-scoring offense. Zach Ertz. I mean, I don't know. This is hard to say slam or scam for him. Last week, tight end 10, caught 4 passes on 5 targets, 68 yards. Still no touchdowns. Maybe he's due for this week. But the week before, 8 targets and only 2 receptions for 10 yards. So I wouldn't get my hopes up too high. This offense has looked really good, but they don't have a lot of great matchups. If I'm desperate for tight end, I would say slam. If I am just trying to pick up somebody for the heck of it, I would say probably scam. If I had to pick one, I'll go slam just because tight end's been so tough this year. And I just feel like this Washington offense has been pretty good.
We said last week when he was like one of the most dropped players, we were like, okay, but why? Like, I get it was a down week, but overall, he's provided you with a pretty safe floor.
Right.
Yeah, the touchdowns aren't there, but who are your other tight ends? If you're getting a better tight end, then yeah, by all means, if you're getting a better receiver, a better running back, a better quarterback, whatever. But I mean, if you're missing out on these elite or even good to average tight ends and you're in like redraft, especially dynasty, I get it. If you just want to get a younger guy that you think's like a lottery ticket, sure. But like redraft in like a deep league, why? You know, you got to kind of ride that wave because, like you said, the Commanders are firing on all cylinders. They continue to look better week to week. You know, Jaden Daniels is doing a great job. So you could do a lot worse than Zach Ertz, especially in a redraft league. Like I said, Dynasty's a different story because you probably can't trade them and get any value. So I get dropping them there if you're getting a young lottery ticket. But overall, it was just kind of baffling to me how we're doing this wild pendulum swing from last week. He was so dropped to this week he's like top added. It's just schizo.
it's so common in fantasy. It's so bad. And it's a big mistake that comes back to bite a lot of people in the butt. Interesting guy here. And it makes sense with what just happened, but we discussed this guy already. Number 8, Bobby, 140.7 thousand ads, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, once again, we talked about last week. It's like, okay, he missed a touchdown or whatever, but it's not – he's still a good depth piece. Once again, what are you looking for Jerry Jeudy to be, and who are you dropping Jerry Jeudy for? If you're dropping Jerry Jeudy for Mark Andrews, good for you. Good for you. If you're dropping Jerry Jeudy for Sean Tucker, questionable. We'll see how that plays out. Need a little bit more information. If you're dropping Jerry Jeudy for Kamani Vidal, golf clap, good for you. Like, who are you dropping Jerry Jeudy for? What are your expectations for Jerry Jeudy? Because we know through 6 weeks now, yeah, the ceiling's not there and the floor can be a little shaky at best. We're kind of doing, you know, trailer park style living here. But, I mean, Jerry Jeudy is going to be a great bye-week filler. I should just have like a button that I just press now that just has this phrase repeated. Jerry Jeudy is a great bye-week filler and he's a great injury filler. Is he a league winner? Hell no, it's not 2022. But just temper your expectations. And like I said, who are you dropping Jerry Jeudy for? Who are you picking Jerry Jeudy up for? If you can live with the answer, then there's your answer, to quote Confucius.
I'm glad you said that about dropping the touchdowns. I think we talked about him last week about being one of the most dropped players. And we were both
he was just like Zach Ertz.
Why? Yeah. And then we just see a huge swing back this week. And it's like, okay, well, I think a lot of people are missing out on the guy they dropped. Like, imagine you dropped Jerry Jeudy because he dropped the touchdown last week. He had 8 targets and you were pissed. Now Amari Cooper's gone and your league mate that you're playing this week picks him up. You're pissed.
Yeah, good luck getting them back. Now you drop them in anger without trying to get something for them or whatever. Good luck fighting everybody else now.
Right. Hopefully you're last on waivers, and in that case, things aren't going well already.
Right. Then you're pissed because you have great waiver position, but if you do reverse position, then that's what comes with having a bad position. And if you use Fab, then halfway through the season, a lot of your fab's probably gone. So you're hoping you have just enough fab to outguess what everybody else is going to be bidding on them.
All right, number 9, 139,000 ads. Wide receiver for the Indiana Colts, Josh Downs. I mean, Flacco's been balling, right? Wide receiver 16 this week, 9 targets, 7 receptions for a touchdown. 12 targets last week, 9 targets the week before that. I don't know, man. I think Richardson coming back is going to hurt Josh Downs. I really do. But it's hard to argue with the volume he's getting right now. I guess slam Josh Downs. I don't know. I'm not going to give up a lot for him, but if you have a spot available, I would consider him.
Yeah, this one's tough because I have no idea where the Anthony Richardson saga is going. The dude's been it seemed like kind of like a healthy scratch the past 2 weeks. They're not saying that. They're saying he's still recovering and they're being overly cautious, but they find themselves in a dilemma as an organization. Do you go with the guy who you know isn't your future, but is doing better? I mean, I don't think he's exactly winning games. They just lost again, but he's giving you the best chance at winning right now in a win now situation if you find yourself in that. So, do you go with him or do you go with your guy who has a laundry list of concerns associated with him, related from accuracy to injury concerns to processing concerns to you name it, and is your future and who does need reps and will presumably, hopefully, you pray get better with reps and with real life game time, but you once again take that risk of that comes with increased real life injuries and real life terrible mistakes and league leading interceptions and everything else to go with it. Like, I don't know. It kind of depends on how that situation is going to shake out. Do they try to win now with Joe Flacco and just kind of take a sit approach with Richardson, like what Green Bay did with Love for a few years? So they don't have the amount of years that Green Bay does, but they could at least do it this season if they think it would help. Do they think that he needs real life game reps and not just, sitting and learning from a vet? Then it just depends. It just depends because I'm kind of like you, and it seems like that's what consensus on social media is. If Richardson does come back, then the value of all the pass catchers is severely hampered at that point, to include Downs. So, just depends. Depends. If you have reverse waiver order and you need receivers, how risk averse are you? If you have fab, I'm not going to be spending much on fab on the guy, but how much are you comfortable with spending? So that's a really spotty answer, and I know it's very fence sitting, but
that's the correct answer.
Yeah, me personally, I'm not investing that much into him. That's me.
Yeah, I agree. Man, number 10, which is funny. We were just talking about the pendulum because I think if we recorded this yesterday, he might have been on this next segment we're about to talk about. But number 10 most added, 138.8 thousand ads. Wide receiver for the New York Jets, Allen Lazard. I feel like he's going to be one of the most dropped tomorrow because we just haven't caught up yet to the to the Adams news. I get it. I mean, Allen Lazard, I own him on, I think, 1 or 2 of my teams. Wide receiver 4 last week, 114 yards, a touchdown. He caught that Hail Mary pass from Rodgers. There's going to be too many mouths to feed. I'm not putting any stock in Lazard unless... Actually, no, not unless anything. I might even drop him in those leagues I have him. I thought he was a pretty decent option because, he's like the number 2 guy. I just don't see Lazard getting much. I don't see Rodgers forcing him the ball when he's got Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. He likes those guys a lot. Lazard's just going to get the scraps, and with as much as they're going to have to feed, I almost said Bijan, as much as they're going to have to feed Brees, I don't know how much is going to be left to go around for Lazard.
Yeah, this is an example of what you try to teach your kids and everything. When somebody offers you something you want no part of, a bad sales pitch, a nasty piece of food or something, you just look at them and you say, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want a steaming pile of poop for lunch. No, thank you.
You're right. You're so right, dude. I just wanted to mention this guy, too, before we move on to the next segment. Number 15 is Kamani Vidal. 121.6 thousand ads. So Against the
Boo! No, I'm
Cardinals
just
this week, too.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
obviously a slam. It's obviously a slam.
I love it. I love it. All right, moving on to the next section. These guys we talked about were just the guys that get the joy of being on fantasy rosters. But for some people, Bobby, it's over too soon. It's over right when the game begins, right when the season begins for these guys. These are going to be 10 players that, hasta la vista. They've been dropped across all leagues. Number one most dropped guy. Was this the same guy last week? 516.6 thousand drops. I know he was at least on here. Running back for Indianapolis, Trey Sermon.
Uh, I don't know if he was most added or most dropped.
I
I
think
know
he,
at
he was
one
in the
point.
he was in the dropped section, and we were like confused because we're like, Jonathan Taylor's still out. Like, why would he be so
Right.
dropped? It makes sense this week, man. 18 carries for 29 yards, 1.6 yards per carry. No
Yeah, it looks like
receptions.
that Goodson guy's taking over that role. So I get
That
why they're dropping him.
yeah, that makes sense. See you later, Trey Sermon. Number two,
All right.
313.3 thousand drops. Running back for Buffalo Bills, Ty Johnson. I get that one too.
Yeah, Ray Davis is the guy.
It happens. Let's see. Number three most dropped, 278.2 thousand drops. Wide receiver for Dallas, Jalen Tolbert. This is the pendulum, dude. This is the guy
Right.
that was super added last week. 4 catches on 5 targets for 43 yards. Guys, they got blown out by Detroit, and you might be saying, "Oh, well, they're gonna throw more." It's like, yeah, but Detroit knows that too. They're not.
Right.
They're not stopping the run anymore at that point. What are you gonna do? Stack the box versus Zeke when you're up by 30? No, you're not.
Right. It's a
Yards.
mistake.
It is yards per catch 10.75. It's like okay. He had a bad game. The Cowboys had a bad game. And maybe it's part of that he's got a bye week this week, which might be playing into it too. They're just like, you know what? Didn't do anything last week. He's got a bye. I'm going to get rid of him. He has 3 games in the orange for the rest of the season. All the rest is green.
Yeah, I would be holding on to him. I'd be holding on to him because he's not going to take over, uh, Lamb's role or whatever. But just once again, by week, Phil, injury, Phil, why are you dropping him? I get it because he's on bye and he didn't do anything. It's a smart one because it is obviously sneaking him under the radar and you're hoping he's still available compared to some more primo guys that you're not going to drop. And I understand that, but overcorrection, like you're saying, 100%.
Agreed. Same with this next guy, I feel. Number 4 most drop guy, 206.6 thousand drops. Wide receiver for the New York Giants, Darius Slayton. Okay. Once again, like maybe they're just saying, I'm just going to drop him, get out ahead of the Neighbors news if Neighbors is able to play. You're dropping a guy who's had back-to-back 11 target games. It's like
Right.
I don't really want to get rid of that guy. I don't know who's on your roster that you're dropping ahead of Slayton.
Yeah, that one's tough unless you already have neighbors or unless you have like Wandell. Those are the only other Giants guys I would want because Wandell, I feel like, has a role as that clear number 2. Neighbors is the clear number 1, and you're worried about what's left over when Neighbors and Wandell and Slayton are all on the field together. You're worried what's going to be left for Slayton. I get that, but I mean, depends on how much longer Neighbors is out, and it depends on if Slayton takes over that 2 role from Wandell and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I think you could do a lot worse than Slayton. So, yeah, overcorrection.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you agree. Number 5, I feel like we've talked about this guy recently too. Running back for the Baltimore Ravens, 202.4 thousand drops. Justice Hill. I mean, I get it, but once again, like, what were your expectations? I feel like we've talked about him before.
Yeah, we've talked about him a lot this season. He's been picked up, dropped, body slammed. He was on my buy sell trade list. He was like, waiver wire pickup. Like, he's not going to take over Derrick Henry's spot, but if you need a spot start running back, it depends. Once again, what are you dropping him for?
Right. Number 6, 200,000 drops. Running back for Chicago, Roshan Johnson. I'm surprised he was on that many rosters, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people thought he was taking Swift's job. or at
I
least
guess.
vulture in the goal line work at bare minimum.
I guess he did that last week, didn't he? He had 10 rushes and got 2 touchdowns. Still, you're chasing touchdowns, and that was against Carolina, like a game
Right,
that they blew that team out. We saw it in a game where it was competitive for a large majority of the game, and he had 5 carries for 8 yards. Yeah, this dude's toast. Um,
right.
Here it comes, Bobby. Watch your head. Here comes the pendulum. Xavier Hutchinson, 199.8 thousand drops, wide receiver of the Houston Texans. Okay, you dropped him. Well, I guess he had 2 targets for 0 receptions. Everybody that picked him up last week, you picked him up, and he had 2 receptions on and 31 yards on 3 targets. Okay,
Right.
so the weeks before that, he had 0 receptions, 0 receptions, 0 receptions. Oh, this past week he had 0 receptions. Okay, what were you guys expecting when you picked him
Right.
up? Were you expecting him to just instantly come in and be God? No. Okay, well, if you picked him up, give him a chance. Yeah,
Right.
like, I don't know what you guys wanted from him. He wasn't going to give you a huge week, and so you guys decided to pick him up, drop somebody, and I don't know. I don't know, Bobby. That one just seems like you either roll with the dude for a little bit or you don't.
Yeah, especially with Collins still being on IR for the next 3 weeks. I mean, Dell has a role now, it looks like. I was wondering if he was going to be able to take that number 2 spot, at least through one game. Looks like he's reclaimed it. Diggs is still on the number 1 slot. But, I mean, if you're desperate for wide receiver help and everything, yeah, you can't just drop them now. I mean, unless you have Diggs or unless you have Dell, then obviously it's a lot easier. But if you're just dying for a piece of the Houston Texans offense, you got to give the guy at least 1, maybe 2 more weeks before you cut bait, since Collins still has 3 games at least left on the IR, if not more, because hamstring injuries linger. Like,
Right.
guy, once again, isn't going to be a league winner, but like you said, temper your expectations.
Yeah. Man, this guy's boring, but then it's gonna get really spicy after that. Number 8 is with 168.5 thousand drops. Wide receiver for the Raiders, Trey Tucker.
I get it.
I
I
get it, but
would,
at the same time, is now the time? Now that Devontae is
yeah.
gone?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Now you just wonder, okay, is Myers slotting in as the one? Is Bowers? Is who's the number 1 pass catcher? And then somewhere Tucker now is 2 or 3, depending on how you view Bowers, Jacoby, and Helm. So
Right. No, I agree. I agree. So that one's a little weird to me. And then, dude, let's get into it. Number 9 most dropped, 164.2 thousand drops. Keon Coleman. We're just throwing him into the fire. Welcome to the Buffalo, Amari Cooper. Uh, this dude, I know he hasn't been great. Like the week before, 5 targets, 1 reception for 49 yards and a touchdown. That's good enough for wide receiver at 25. I mean, I can't believe we're just throwing away this young receiver that they drafted. It would have been their first round pick. They traded back into the second round. Smart move by Buffalo to get their guy still. We're throwing him away.
right.
We're thinking like, all right, well, Curtis Samuel and I always forget, it's Khalil Shakir is gonna be, they're gonna be the main guys. Coleman has a role here. Coleman has
Right.
a role. Tell me the big differences between Coleman and Amari Cooper. They're both big body receivers that can go up and get the ball. Okay. All right. Coleman's been around longer. He knows the offense better. And you're just throwing him to the trash. That seems like a misstep to me.
Right. I agree. I agree. And that was probably before people even found out Cooper was going to the Bills to add insult to injury.
You're right. You're right. He's
So,
probably gonna get dropped even more. That's just
yeah.
crazy to me. And then number 10, Dontavian Wicks, 158.9 thousand drops. He's been injured, and I kind of get this one because it's like, okay, 3 targets, 1 reception. He had that one huge crazy game where he finished as wide receiver 3. We said like, okay, that's not gonna happen again. This is Wicks, and then sure enough, he has 7 targets, 2 receptions for 20 yards, no touchdowns. Falls right back down to wide receiver 73. This one isn't very surprising to me. He's got a couple easy matchups coming up if he does play. I just think that this is injury concern and a crowded receiving room.
Oh, Dontavius. No, no, yeah. I don't want really Green Bay pass catchers if it's not Jordan Love and anybody else. It just feels like a carousel at this point. I mean, Jaden Reed, obviously
Yeah,
Jordan Love because he controls all that, but Jaden Reed. If
yeah,
it's not Jaden Reed, it just feels like too much of a guessing game.
agreed. Agreed. This one's kind of funny though. We'll touch on this, and then I did miss one trade, and then we'll get out of here, Bobby. This guy would have been the 11th most dropped player. Bobby, 154.9 thousand drops. What quarterback for which team?
All right, so a dropped quarterback.
Don't look it up.
I'm
Just tell
not.
me who you
I'm
feel.
not.
Starting quarterback,
Bo, Bo Nix.
Justin Fields.
Huh. Okay, I see that now with the news that they're planning on starting Russ now.
I can't believe that they're planning on starting Russ. And how long is that going to last for? If Russ comes in and they lose 2-3 games, he's going to be right back in there. There's no way, right? I mean, I cannot see Justin Fields brought them to 4-2. They've looked great, and then I don't see Russell Wilson coming in and being great. I don't know. I can't believe it. With the news, I can see why people are doing it, but it seems like an overreaction, and I just don't see it staying.
Do you want your answer?
Yes.
Mike Tomlin. Statistics are for losers. That's the quote.
That's it. That's
Also,
what.
also Mike Tomlin. Justin has been really good, and we've been really good at times, but not to be confused with great. This is a competitive league. We have a player with talent who hasn't had an opportunity to play. So that's how they're thinking of the situation.
Mike Tomlin, you are a scam, sir. That makes you so upset. Um,
Oh,
let's see. The Cam Akers trade. This is the other thing I wanted to talk about
yeah.
before we get out of here, and then just mention a couple other things going on with Better and Green. Um, it doesn't do too much for me, really. Like, okay, he's going to be splitting some time up there in Minnesota. Minnesota's look good. I mean, I just don't. He's, once again, 139.6 thousand drops. He's the 16th most dropped, but that's including kickers and defenses. I don't know, dude. I can't get behind Cam Akers.
Poop. But on to a more serious question before we get out of here mentioning Minnesota. This is what I wanted to ask you earlier. And hey, feel sorry for the people who aren't tuned in right now watching because this is going to be some primo information you're about to get. Speaking of Minnesota, since I'm not really on board with Cam Akers either, my serious answer, once again, how long is Aaron Jones out? What's the extent of his injury? There's so many unknowns there. If he's going to be missing time, sure, I like Cam Akers because I definitely don't like Ty Chandler, who's the next guy up. So, yeah, I would take Cam Akers, but we don't know anything about Aaron Jones' injury and if he's going to be feeling better after the bye or not. But what I do know is there are currently 4 teams in the NFL with a plus 40 or better point differential right now. Can you guess what division all 4 teams are in?
It's got to be NFC North.
NFC North?
Yeah.
Look at you, you're correct. Vikings plus 63, Lions plus 60, Bears plus 47, Packers plus 41.
It's kind of impressive that the Bears are up there.
Right, they've been playing out of their minds lately though. But yeah.
Damn. It's
So that leads
possible Aaron Jones plays this week, by the way. I'm just reading right here. He's on the
okay.
practice field. I wouldn't say it's a lock that he'll play, but
Then yeah, I'm not really as interested in Akers. But here's my question for you before we get out of here for my
Yeah.
personal starting in one of our leagues. So I'm struggling between Justin Herbert at Arizona, who's given up the 29th most fantasy points to quarterbacks at the position. Problem is pass catchers. And Justin Herbert is more than content to just ding and dong and just do like a little Patrick Mahomes where he just gets you like 12 points. If you need 13, he gets you 12. If you need 12, he gets you 11 type thing. Or do I play Sam Darnold coming out of the bye, playing Detroit, only allowing the 8th most points, a red matchup to quarterbacks, but I think it's going to be a shootout, especially with those point differentials between those two teams. What do you think, especially since they lost Hutchinson for the season? Their main defensive player, they're not going to be as strong. Do you think that's going to be a shootout, a high-scoring game?
You see, I think that's a fantastic question. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a super high scoring game because we've seen that Minnesota defense look so good.
Sure.
But once again, that's Detroit, and I do think that Aiden Hutchinson injury is really going to hurt that Lions team. He was far and away their sack leader, and really, if you look at their pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson, not that great. And even when it is better, a lot of times it's aided by Aiden Hutchinson. He's just bringing the pressure, and then somebody else gets free. Quarterback runs into him. I feel pretty confident saying I would start Darnold. Once again, these teams know each other really well, so Jay Jetta's going to know how to get free. A lot of those guys are going to kind of know the tendencies of the other team because of the divisional game. So I don't know if it'll be super high scoring, but I absolutely think that it would be better to start Sam Darnold because once again, Arizona, great matchup. Are they gonna have to pass the ball a ton? I mean, can't they just run it down Arizona's throat? We've seen it happen time and time again. I feel like David Montgomery had 15 touchdowns when he faced the Cardinals. It's just insane. I feel like with Vidal and J.K. Dobbins, it's going to be kind of like that Broncos game, I think, where they can just control time of possession and just make. Once again, Marvin Harrison's injured, so how much are they going to have to win by? They win by 10, and that game's 23-13.
Right. One more food for thought with a Minnesota-Detroit game. Minnesota is second in the league at stopping the run. Obviously, a way to run out the clock and control the ball time and ball possession. However, 27th against the pass. So
this is Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota is 27th out of 32 teams in the NFL. So they're 27th when it comes to stopping the pass, but they're second at stopping the run. So does this mean we see David and Gibbs get stymied on the ground and they have to go to the air more? So it has to be more of a shootout?
Honestly, I think no. Honestly, I think that the Lions with the number one offensive line, and when you have Gibbs and you have Montgomery, you could still eat. It doesn't matter who you're going against. I really think that they're going to be okay. I think Montgomery will be fine.
Then I'm going to start everybody, and I'm also going to start Darnold because I was also thinking about Knicks at New Orleans, but I don't know. Rattler's the X factor, but I don't know.
That one's
That's
tough.
my other choice. Yeah.
That one's tough. Well, never mind. You're not going to be starting them anyways. I was like, well, that'd be if you're starting Darnold. You got Lamar Jackson as your other quarterback. You're fighting for the
number
QB2.
one.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just trying to figure out that 2 slot. That's the tough part.
Yeah, that would be Darnold for me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think between Jefferson, he's got Addison. I don't know if he'll have Hawkinson back this early, but between Jettas and Addison, and with how their defense has been playing, I think it'll at least be a decent game to where they at least won't be. Neither team's going to be comfortably up enough, I feel like, to where they can just cruise control. So they will be forced to play up until the very end. But yeah, I think it should be good then.
I agree, man. Let's see, real quick, going over some stuff for Better and Green. Got shouted out today by the American Betting League. It's the they take a bunch of sports betting people that post content and they grouped us all together, threw us into a league. It'll be bracket style playoffs. So right now you're fighting for your positioning. We moved up 12 spots this weekend.
Nice.
Amazing 4-day run. We went 42-23 in that span, up 11.43 units.
Nice.
Thank you for the shout out, American Betting League. Follow them over on Twitter. They're AB League _. A lot of that is the plays from Intentional Lounging and plays from Tapping Vegas, our two biggest shows right now. Big news about Tapping Vegas is we are having a guest on this week. We're having Shitty Cat DFS join us on Tapping Vegas. He'll be the first guest that we've had on the show over there. We've had a couple on Intentional Lounging. Bobby was one of them. when he first was introduced to Better in Green. And so we're going to have Shitty Cat DFS if you bought the draft guide. And once again, even if you didn't, now it is free on the website, bettergreen.com. You will have access to see the I don't really remember what it's called, like the archived video of the draft that we did. Shitty Cat was part of that, so you can go check him out there if you would like to see it. Check him out over on Twitter for sure. He's a great follow. He does a lot of UFC stuff as well. He also does fantasy football. Great guy. Me and Bobby love him, so he'll be with us this week. Right now, I don't know how my bets are doing, Bobby. I'm a little nervous. I got Dallas minus a 1.5. They're currently tied in the second with San Jose. I have minus 10.5 for Louisiana Tech against New Mexico State, who's just terrible. Right now, that one's tied. The game just started. I have $40 on Edmonton. Edmonton outright, which that one's scary. So $10 is a unit in this league. $40 to win 20. Probably not the smartest bet. I got them at minus 200. I just really feel Edmonton's hasn't won a game yet this season. I'm on the New York Liberty in the WNBA. I'm on them. I believe that's tomorrow. I got a 14 parlay too, Bobby. I'm on Boston, the Celtics tonight, Middle Tennessee State University, Louisiana Tech, and the Carolina Hurricanes. 14 parlay comes out to plus 224. Threw $22 on it to win 50. I just feel like all those teams win. It's kind of scary to throw over 2 units on a parlay, but, you know. Oh, in this league, I'm glad I still got you here. This guy did, I need to look it up real quick. He did a 3-leg parlay, first touchdown scorer. You'll shit your pants. You have to see this. I have to pull this up. I'm glad that we're still talking. I'm glad I brought this up. It was. Come on. Where was it? I know it's a little dead air right now. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Right.
I'm good. Yeah, go ahead.
Here it is. 3-team parlay. Derrick Henry, first touchdown at plus 375. Jaden Reed, first touchdown at plus 800. Chris Godwin, first touchdown at plus 1,000. Bobby, that came out to plus 46,925. He put $20 on it. Bobby, he won $9,385.
Oh my God. That's a really good fucking series of bets too, because all those were just like so probable.
Yeah.
It's like something that you wish that you like see too, because that's just fucking insane.
Isn't it? $20. He won almost 10 grand. He said he placed it in real life too. He said he's just going to invest it and keep his unit size the same, which is like, congratulations on you not having a gambling addiction, but God damn.
Good idea. Kudos to that individual.
Absolutely. That basically means that Better Green will not be winning first place in this league because he now is, and like I said, we moved up 14 spots, so we are 23rd in this league now out of 52. He is currently second place, has 68 units on the year. Number one, 921.57 units.
I wonder if that guy made his profits off that big play there. It's like, how the hell did that other person get so high? What did they bet on?
I don't know, man. I feel like we can catch up. So it's 68, 65, and then 40 is in fourth place. And we're sitting there right now at 2.7. I put us in the gutter early. I brought us all the way down to minus 11. So I fought back hard this past week, but damn, dude. He's got number one locked up.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, for sure. Kudos to that individual. I'm jealous.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Me too. Also, the article that we posted, I got so much to cover today. It's ridiculous. I apologize. We've been on for almost an hour and a half. The women's MMA plus 3.5. There's only one women's MMA fight in this past card. And it hit. It almost didn't hit, Bobby, because it was 29-28. 28-29. So she actually won on one scorecard, and then it was 30-27. So we barely did it. We barely covered. But I'm like, man, how come somebody give her the outright win and this man say she lost 30-27? That was just insane. So I'm really glad we got that win. It wasn't 29-28, 29-28, 30-27. We did get that extra point. It feels good, man. It feels good. So we're at, I believe that will put us at a half unit to start. And then we have, I believe, 2 or 3 this week. So we'll get to keep playing, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how this betting strategy goes. Just blindly betting the plus 3.5.
It's going to be interesting for women's MMA, and it's going to be made even more interesting by MMA judging and scoring.
Yes, you're right. Good point. Guys, thank you for watching. We do this every Tuesday. We usually hop on at 7. Once again, I say it every week. I need to change that graphic on the top. It's not 9-8. It is 8-7 Central that we hop on and do these. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have questions, like I said, we'll be on next week. Me and Bobby and Shitty Cat will be on for an MMA episode covering UFC 99, I believe. UFC Vegas 99 is this upcoming card. Will be coming out on Friday with that video, along with Intentional Lounging on Thursday. See you guys later. Peace, guys.
Peace.